Hi, I'm Micah Halpern. Thank you for joining me today as I do some thinking out loud. Our first segment is called Background Briefing. The first thing I've been thinking about is how we are being subjected to an explosion of Jew hatred and anti-Jewish vitriol and demeaning rhetoric from Black public personalities. The outbreak is, to put it mildly, deeply disturbing. This Jew hatred, spouted by prominent figures from the world of sports, to music icons, to television hosts, has thankfully been decried by other prominent Black voices and condemned. And that's a critical component that we're now seeing for, I think, one of the first times. Two great NBA legends, Charles Barkley and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, are among those who lashed out at those who were using their public positions to spread Jew hatred. In a 78-second video that was posted on Twitter to @NBA on TNT, Barkley called them out by name. This is the transcript of the video, and I'm going to read it to you. Listen to John Jackson, Stephen Jackson, Nick Cannon, Ice Cube. Man, what the blank are you all doing? You all want racial equality? We all do. I don't understand how insulting another group helps our cause. And the other person who called you all on it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We can't allow Black people to be prejudiced, also especially if we're asking for white folks to respect us. Give us economic opportunity and things like that. I'm so disappointed in these men. I don't understand how you beat hatred with more hatred. That stuff should never come up in your vocabulary, and it should never come up in your heart. I don't understand it. I'm never going to accept it, and I'm asking you guys, I'm begging you guys, man, you guys are famous. You've got a platform. We've got to do better, man. I want allies. I don't want to alienate anybody and to take shots at the Jewish race, the white race. I just don't like it because it's not right, and I had to call them on it. It's because it's really been on my heart. Well, thank you, Charles Barkley and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Many of these Jew-hating canards can be traced back to a man once known as Louis X, today more well-renowned than known as, and recognized as Reverend Louis Farrakhan. For those who follow headline news enough, everyone knows who Farrakhan is if you follow the news. But Farrakhan, who identifies as a religious leader and a political activist, has been on the front lines of Jew hatred for decades. He draws on the most base and ugliest of hatreds and spreads it as gospel. He points his finger at the Jew and says Jews are the reason for the tribulations and troubles and the suffering of Blacks. He disenfranchises the Jew. He defrocks their chosenness and elevates Blacks in their stead. Farrakhan's popularity, which has soared, continues to rise now. Farrakhan's anti-Jewish influence in the Black world is echoed by another very influential and fiercely vocal group, and actually very violent. They are the Black Hebrew Israelites. Black Hebrew Israelites. They were a violent group who, like Farrakhan, believe that today's Jews are not true Jews. They believe that Blacks are the true Jews. This group is not to be confused with the original Black Hebrews. The Black Hebrew Israelites are very different from Black Hebrews. The original Black Hebrews were not violent at all. They never preached displacing traditional Jews in Judaism. They believed, and they taught, and they continue to teach, that they are part of the 10 lost tribes that were split, taken into captivity, and lost. That belief, by the way, is one of the historical stories used to explain Ethiopian Jews. Black Hebrew Israelites, though, and Farrakhan believe that they are not lost tribes. They believe that they are the entire 12 tribes. They believe that they are the original Jews, or Hebrews, actually, they call themselves also. Hebrews. They argue that everyone from the ancient Middle East was Black, including, of course, Moses and Jesus. From this belief emerges a tremendous disdain for what they call white Jews. The Black Hebrew Israelites claim to be authentic, like Farrakhan and his minions. They lash out at traditional Jews and the traditional Jewish community. Heidi Beirich, she studies extremism and extremist groups. She is the leader of the Intelligence Project for the Southern Poverty Law Project, and is highly respected for her expertise in this. According to Beirich, quote, Black Hebrew Israelites claim to be from the 12 tribes of Israel, who will one day be given dominion by God to rule over the earth. She continues in a quote, they believe that Jewish people are fake Jews, imposters, who will be supplanted by them in the future. They also believe that God will make whites, who these groups consider spawns of the devil, into their slaves, forced into eternal servitude. It is not new to find that there are people, usually small groups of people, who will believe crazy things. Spin-offs of extremist groups who become more extremists have always existed. Louis Farrakhan, for example, has been around for decades, as I mentioned earlier, and his message has been consistent throughout the decades. What is new and what is troubling is that these groups are growing, especially these groups of Jew haters. In the information age we live in, their message is so easy to find. Just click on YouTube and choose which video of Jew hatred you want to watch or listen to. Established Black leaders are publicly tweeting and spouting their extremist messages, most galling and incredulous at the same time, is that when challenged, many of them do not even consider their rhetoric to be Jew hatred. They see it as truth. They argue that truth can't be hateful, that truth can't be racist. They echo a message originally delivered by Yasser Arafat even. The message goes like this: we can't be anti-Semites because we ourselves are Semites. After all, they call themselves the original Hebrews. It is Jew hatred without a doubt, and they are anti-Semites without a doubt. You know it, I know it, and other Black leaders know it. Those who do not subscribe to this hate speech and those who speak up to negate it know it too. I've also been thinking a little bit about cyber warfare, and I've mentioned this and we've talked about this a lot. Cyber warfare is the warfare of the future, and I'm telling you that now. The future of war is in cyber. Enemy against enemy, utilizing hackers and sabotage essential infrastructure facilities throughout the world. Targets are national services: water, electric, sewage, bridges, trains, subways, airports, shipports, banks, hospitals, and too often nuclear sites. If and when attacks are successful, the results are devastating. To date, almost all of these attacks have been repelled. Almost all. Those that have succeeded have been cleaned. And most dangerous of hackers, the most dangerous of hackers, and the most dangerous hack is the one that goes undetected. Hackers are divided into two groups: good versus evil. Just like in spaghetti western movies of old, they're called, and for the time being at least, white hatters and black hatters. But the groups are fluid. Hackers often switch groups and, in so doing, don different hats. For many, it's about money. They hack for profit and chase the biggest paycheck. The hacks that are created and then perpetrated are often the same, whether the hacking group is on one side or the other side. White hatters are not just defensive hackers. They just don't clean up after and protect against black hatters. For a white hatter, defense means protection. They plan attacks against the enemy as preemptive strikes, but also as counter attacks. Most failed hacks are done by amateurs, perpetrated by kids playing games. Computer hacking programs are easily available on the dark web. Kids, amateurs, wannabe hackers tweak, enter competitions, and try to get into the Federal Reserve, let's say, and into the Pentagon. They do it all the time, almost every day. Thousands and thousands of people attempt to do this. Now, players can span continents, and competitions can be in groups or by individuals, mostly by individuals. Computer geeks who subscribe to the principles of anarchy are large contributors to the hacking pool. And they have proven to be extremely gifted computer geeks. By character, most are fiercely independent, but nonetheless, when it suits their purpose, they will affiliate with loosely defined groups of hackers. Anarchist hackers will sometimes join together to perpetrate a group hack to shut down something or someone or to commemorate a historic event. By far, and this is the good news, even if surprising, the largest group of hackers are employed by governments. It's not for patriotic or altruistic reasons. It's because governments have the deepest pockets, and they pay on time. In fact, They are government hackers who are part of the bureaucracy, and there are government hackers who are private contractors, large contractors and very small, sometimes even single individuals. Governments are investing huge amounts of money and manpower in cyber defense and offense. The risks of damage due to cyber attacks are colossal. Most hacking and hacker budgets and numbers are classified and top secret. The largest government hacking teams are, and this you should know in order, and this is not in order, I'm sorry, just the top five, are China, Russia, the United States, Israel, and now Iran. 10 years ago, Iran was not even a player in the game. No less, now they're in the top five. Iran has now joined the big leagues of government hacking. There are two very recent happily unsuccessful hacks into Israel's water system. This is the second time there's been a significant hack into Israel's water system. Hacks happen with frequency, but not all worth noting. The earlier significant attack was in May. We spoke about that. A hack traced to Iran made its way into the chlorine water computer system, the water computer that monitors and regulates the amount of chlorine in the national water system. It's the system responsible for making certain that water is both clean and drinkable. And that's an important element to try to understand. Certainly, a significant system like that and a dangerous hack when perpetrated successfully. The May hack was discovered, but it was stopped inside the system, not outside. That means damage was done. Not damage to the chlorine, but damage was done to the system. And that is what distinguishes a successful hack from an unsuccessful hack. Very important distinction. Most hacks are simply attempts and they're repelled on the outside. Some get in and are stopped. Others, like this Iran perpetrated attack against Israel, are discovered only after they've entered, hopefully before they've done harm. This time the hackers hit the water system that is responsible for agricultural irrigation in the northern part of Israel called the Galilee. The hack also hit a water computer in the center of the country. Israel's cyber unit is called Shmona Matayim, or 8,200. People in the know don't pronounce it 8,200. It's simply 8,200. Shmona Matayim, 8,200. It is the largest unit in the entire Israeli army. It is also one of the most competitive units to be accepted into. We don't know exactly how many are in it, but there are thousands. They are pencil pusher, pocket protector kids. Experts assert that Shmona Matayim is the foremost technology intel agency in the world, and it's staffed almost exclusively by people between the ages of 18 and 21. It is on par with the NSA in everything except its size. It is estimated that 60% of all of Israel's intelligence comes now from Shmona Matayim. This is the unit that created Stuxnet, the virus in 2010 that infected and crippled the Iranian nuclear sites. In 2017, the New York Times reported that Shmona Matayim actually hacked Kaspersky, the computer software program, which originates out of Russia, and then watched as Russian hackers went about searching for U.S. intel operations and plans. Shmona Matayim told the United States what was happening, and the United States responded. This is an important thing. Nowadays, we take security for granted. We think, let's say, for instance, of security as a watchful eye, as cameras, as guard posted outside of locations. Truth is, yes, we have progressed way beyond that. Guards and cameras can only protect against old-fashioned attacks. This is a new and different world we live in today. Life is different. Warfare is different, and we require new and different protections. And so do the bad guys. Coming up next, points of view. First up is an op-ed from the Duke Chronicle. It's dated from January 2020. I do not often use college media. Often, however, this piece is particularly important given some of the topics that we've already discussed today and still very relevant. It is co-authored by Max Sherman and Ezra Loeb. They are both executive members of the Duke Israel Affairs Committee at Duke University. This is how they begin. What happened during your winter break? Many Jews at Duke reconsidered publicly displaying their faith. On December 10th, two gunmen attacked a Jersey City, New Jersey kosher grocery store and Jewish school, murdering 4 people, Just weeks later, on December 28th, a knife-wielding man carried out a stabbing rampage during a Hanukkah party at the home of a Monsey rabbi, New York rabbi, Rabbi Chaim Rottenberg. Where's the outcry? The authors now don't just ask that. Now they draw on a series of examples of what was going on just now and how dangerous it is to actually show your visible Jewish lifestyle. They continue. In recent months, harassments and violent attacks against visibly Jewish New Yorkers have become disturbingly commonplace. In 2018, the NYPD received over 200 reports of anti-Semitic incidents. Among the areas hardest hit by this rise in anti-Semitism are those with large Hasidic populations, such as the Crown Heights and Borough Park neighborhoods in Brooklyn. A substantial portion of these hate crimes involve brutal physical attacks on Orthodox Jews who are easily identifiable, says Brian Levin, director of the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism. The targeting of visible Jewishness is a common thread throughout the recent spate of anti-Semitic attacks. Many Hasidic Jews can be identified with shtreimels, their fur hats, or rekalach, their frock coats. Religiously observant Jews cover their heads with kippot, caps, while Star of David necklaces are commonplace among secular Jews. Even visiting Jewish institutions, such as the Tree of Life Synagogue, signals Jewishness to would-be attackers. Anti-Semites target Jews, not Jewish divisions. Then explain that people are not appalled by these acts, that perpetrators are rewarded and even paid for their murder. They write, it came as no surprise when the PA, the Palestinian Authority, granted terrorist Hakim Awad a $14,000 annual salary after his conviction for murdering the Jewish Israeli Fogel family. On March 11, 2011, Awad broke into the family's home and slayed the 5 family members as they slept in their beds. After his conviction, Awad told the judge, I am a person like you. I have no mental condition. I never had a serious illness. My only illness is the Israeli occupation. This is no satisfactory justification. There is no explanation for murdering the Fogels, including 11-year-old Yoav, 4-year-old Elad, and 2-month-old Hadass. That does not entail hatred towards Jews. What was Awad's punishment? The Washington Post reports that he will be paid more than $1.9 million from the PA Prisoners Fund by the end of his sentence. Here's how they conclude their essay, which is, I think, very poignant and very real. Anti-Semitism, they write, sees no borders. Regardless of the attack's location or motivation, anti-Semitic terrorists must face justice and their vile ideology must be rejected. We need to be unified in combating anti-Semitism, whether by crossing denominational lines or recognizing when actors across the world engage in blatant Jew hatred. It is unacceptable for Jews or members of any religious group to fear displaying their faith. Jews at Duke and their brave allies must work together to fight anti-Semitism in all its forms. Well said. Next up is a column from Idaho. You heard me right, Idaho. It's from the Post-Register of Idaho. It was written by Mark Fuller and is entitled Idaho Republicans' Unequivocal Support for Israel. And it's dated July 15th, 2020. Fuller is the chairman of the Bonneville County Republican Party in Idaho. This is what Fuller writes. The recent Republican Party convention allowed delegates to propose changes to the party platform rules and pass resolutions intended to influence legislators. Proposals from Bonneville County included amending the preamble of the party platform to recognize that America is an exceptional country, unlike any country that has ever existed on earth. Bonneville County also proposed a rule change to assure proper approval before the distribution of funds by regions, which are divisions of the state party. Each of these proposals was accepted by the convention delegates. I was inspired to propose a resolution establishing Idaho's unequivocal support for the state of Israel. The resolution was unanimously approved in the resolution committee and overwhelmingly approved on the convention floor with minor modifications. While the resolution itself was important, Either's own self-interest will also be served by the application of its principles. Let me explain why this resolution is so important to both Israel and Idaho. The modern state of Israel, like the United States, is born from the aspiration for freedom and stands out among Middle Eastern nations as a beacon of democracy and humanity. Beyond our mutual strategic interest, Israel is likewise an exceptional country that shares our most essential values. It is the only country in the Middle East where freedom of speech and freedom of religion are found. And now Fuller concludes, and it's remarkable. After the resolution passed on the convention floor, many delegates came up to me and thanked Bonneville County Republicans for proposing this important resolution. I also believe that God will take notice of the passage of this resolution. In Genesis 12:3, God covenanted with Abraham, that father of Israel, that God would bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curse thee. Idaho Republicans seek to bless the state of Israel, that we may be worthy of the blessings of God upon Idaho in this most difficult time. As Republicans, we invite you to pray for Israel and for Idaho. The COVID-19 pestilence we are now enduring may be lifted by the merciful God of both Jew and Gentile. We see in this that hatred against Israel all the time. We see so much hatred all around us of Israel, so much vitriol against Jews, so much anti-Semitism. But this kind of resolution, and what we saw in Idaho, reminds us that there is a very large, significant population in the United States that still loves and cherishes Israel. Coming up, commentary through cartoons, where pictures tell the story. I'm going to show you 3 cartoons today. The first cartoon is one of the funniest and most creative cartoons I have seen in a very long time. It's entitled The 11th Commandment, 2020 AD Supplemental. Moses is holding the 11th commandment, which reads, "Thou shalt not COVID thy neighbor's life." And then it reads, "Wear a mask." This cartoon is a creative and thoughtful and, of course, funny way of describing the situation we have today. I chuckled when I first saw it. Next up is a sad cartoon. It's a play on Florida being the new epicenter of coronavirus. On a map of the United States, Florida is coughing and coughing, and it's actually separating itself from the continental United States, floating off into the Atlantic Ocean. Last up is a funny piece of news, and it's funny but sad at the same time. You should all already know that anyone who dies of COVID positive, that is COVID positive when they die, I should say, is considered a COVID death. Okay? If you die, let's say, for instance, by being hit by a car and are COVID positive, but you're asymptomatic with no visual signs of the virus, you are still listed as a COVID death. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that's the way it is. This news piece that reports a meth lab that exploded in Little Rock, Arkansas, is a perfect example of it. The news piece reads, and this is a CNN news piece, the headline reads, "Coronavirus kills 2 in meth lab explosion." Just hilarious. In a moment, more of my own perspective and a few predictions. The race is on for the vaccine for COVID-19. Whenever that vaccine is discovered, hopefully soon, countries will need to give the vaccine to their citizens. There are 3 ways to deliver such a medication. One is through the nose, one is through the mouth, and the third is through an injection. Odds are that an injection will be the most common method. To give an injection, you need a syringe. The United States has already purchased 50 million syringes. They were close to enough, obviously, at the cost of $70 million. Canada and the United Kingdom have also purchased their syringes. Not enough for the whole country, but enough for the immediate near future. Israel has not made plans yet. They have not purchased syringes. That could prove to be very problematic. The health ministry has been warned by private bodies that there is a need to buy syringes. A health source in the health ministry was quoted as saying, due to global race to a vaccine, there is a real doubt regarding the ability to produce and supply syringes on a time if no purchase is done ahead of time. This is worrisome. The vaccine will come in vials. There are usually 10 to 20 doses per vial, but the vaccine is useless without a syringe. The Iranian president is fighting for his political life. There is a move in Iran to impeach Rouhani, the president of Iran. The move asserts that Rouhani failed in protecting Iran from COVID-19. Obviously, the move comes from the right. You should know, by the way, that I read recently that there are 25 million COVID-19 patients in Iran. Rouhani has been working hard to try to appease the right-wing parliamentarians, calling for unity and brotherhood. His foreign minister, Zarif, was shouted down in parliament recently, and Rouhani defended him, obviously. Rouhani represents a compromise with the West. It is Rouhani who is responsible for the famous nuke deal. Internally, Iran is dealing with pulls and pushes. The right has a very strong voice in politics. The liberals are the youth of Iran. Rouhani was open to liberal ideas, but he promised much more than what he delivered. The move to impeach cites COVID, but in reality, the issue is that the right sees that Rouhani is far too liberal on everything. Western media has not really been paying attention enough to the explosions that are taking place in Iran. Now, outlet after outlet covered the mysterious fires in the southern port of Bushehr, where 7 ships were set aflame. Now, there are no reports of injuries there, but the fires shut down the port. Bushehr is a significant place, not just because of its port. Those who set fires are sending a message way beyond the ships burning in the southern port. Bushehr is where the Iranian Navy is headquartered. But even more important, Bushehr is a location of one of the secret Iranian nuclear sites. Whoever hit Bushehr, the port, was sending a strong message. Pay attention, Iran, they were saying. We can hit your Navy and your nuclear site also. We've been thinking out loud about a lot today. Now that you know what I've been thinking, let me know what you're thinking. Email me at micah@jbstv.org. Tweet me at Micah Halpern. Tell me what you think. Before we end, let me leave you with one piquant piece of information. One of the cartoons I showed listed the date AD. In general, I never use the expression AD. Serious historians, especially Jewish historians, never use BC and AD. The reason is that the expressions are Jesus-based. AD is Latin for Anno Domini, which means in the year of our Lord. BC means before Christ. I do not use those terms because the calendar does not center around the crucifixion of Jesus. So the term BCE, before the Common Era, means before the year 1. CE, the Common Era, is everything from the year 1 and forward. It is the traditional nomenclature used for dating. We live in the Common Era. Thank you for thinking out loud with me today. Micah Halpern. Let's think out loud again next week on JBS.